Alright, y'all, we're here to talk basketball from yesterday, January 3rd, which was a Sunday. We had a nice little 8-game slate that was capped off with an absolutely great performance from Steph Curry. He dropped a new career high 62 points, and it really just it just finished off a very solid night of basketball. So as always, I'll have some timestamps in the description so you can bounce around from game to game as you please. But with that being said, let's get into what happened yesterday in the NBA world. The Celtics got revenge on the Detroit Pistons and ended up splitting their little 2-game series as Jaylen Brown dropped half a Steph Curry in points and Jason Tatum hit the eventual game winner. Jaylen Brown continues to be on an absolute tear this season. He has now, over his past 4 games, scored at least 20 points and shot at least 50% in all 4 of them, and on the season he is now averaging 28 points per game, signifying that he is set up for a major leap in this season. Definitely in the All-Star discussion as of now, and maybe even more if he can keep this up, further down the line. And Jason Tatum had a great game as well. He had a career-high 12 assists, and we saw it a little bit in the bubble of last season where Jason Tatum was starting to break out as a playmaker, and he is furthering his progression this year, and it was very evident in this game. He was running a lot of pick and rolls and a lot of point Tatum in this one, and again, it led to the career high, and it's just another facet of Tatum's game that he is excelling at so far. And for the Pistons, even though they did lose a close one to the Celtics after beating them, Jeremy Grant continues his I'm a number one player campaign as he had another 20-point scoring effort. But the big issue for the Pistons fans in this one is that Blake Griffin, not only did he get absolutely mixed by Jason Tatum on the game-winning attempt, but he also just did not have a great game at all. He had 13 points in 29 minutes on 4 of 14 shooting, and while I don't quite want to say that BG is washed or he's not a good talent anymore, he just has definitely taken a step back from what we've seen in past years. Obviously, he was great 2 seasons ago. Last year dealt with a lot of major injuries, which led to his numbers declining. But so far this year, he says he's healthy, yet his numbers haven't really improved since his injury-riddled season last year. He has had some difficulties to start this season, most notably he getting knocked in the face and having a minor concussion. But again, I'm not quite out on Blake Griffin yet because it was assumed that he was going to have a bit of a decline this year, but no one thought it was going to be this harsh this quick. In Brooklyn, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, and Thomas Bryant all combined to score 10 more points than Steph Curry did last night, as it was Bradley Beal and Thomas Bryant who connected on the assist and dunk that would put the Wizards up for good over the Brooklyn Nets. I think this game definitely served as a reminder for what we imagine this Washington team to look like going into the season. A super high-scoring offense that perplexed us for how it performed so well, and a defense that is just very bad and is an absolute travesty. The Wizards somehow pulled off this win despite Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook combining to shoot 16 of 50 from the field, including a 3 of 12 effort from the 3-point line, and it was just a very disgustingly fun game to watch because a lot of offense, but also a lot of just missed shots and chuck shots and just poor defense, but it was entertaining in the end. Thomas Bryant also continues his absolute tear over the past couple of games. He has scored at least 18 points and shot 75% or better in each of the last 3. And the Nets now find themselves sitting at 3-4 despite a 30-point and 28-point effort from Kyrie and KD. They both had really awesome looks at the end of the game to take the lead and potentially win the game, but somehow they both missed some pretty easy bunnies. But take away those shots and simply just look at how the Nets lost this game, it's evident that the loss of Spencer Dinwiddie is affecting this team a lot more than we thought it would, and they're going to have to find some sort of resolvement soon. It's also not helping that Caris LeVert has not been great to start the season either. Over the past 3 games, he scored 10 points, 8 points, and 6 points, and he's just not scoring well. He's not facilitating as well as he usually does, and that's also definitely putting a hamper on this Nets offense. All in all, this Nets offense is not looking as dangerous as it once did at the early portions of the year. In Memphis, we got a pretty classic LeBron performance. Lakers, again, sticking to the usual theme of just kind of relaxing, resting up a bit for the first 3 quarters of the game. Then 4th quarter, they turn it on and blow the doors off the other team. Again, classic LeBron game, though. In this one, he had a 22-13-8 stat line with 13 of those 22 points coming in the 4th quarter as the Lakers pulled away from the Grizzlies. And this seems like a theme that is going to stick with the 2021 Lakers. They're going to play down to their opponent for the most part, and then at some point they're planning to flip a switch every game. And while I understand that they are just trying to get their rest, they should be careful and cautious that this doesn't bleed into the postseason or into the more important games down the line this season, because it's not always great to rely on flipping the switch. Although in this case, they also do have one of the greatest players of all time in LeBron James, so at the same time, I kind of give them a pass on this one. As for the Grizzlies, no one on the team really had a big night. It was an all-around team effort, and looking back on the stats, they shot 9 of 33 from 3, so I'm not even quite sure how they stayed in this game for so long, even if the Lakers were just playing not good basketball. But one very positive note for the Memphis fans is that Desmond Bane, the rookie who was recently drafted this year, has been great off the bench. He has been shooting the ball very well, and with all the injuries, I would hope that he can get some more minutes as these games progress, because he's been playing like one of the better players on the team so far. The Nuggets also had a fourth quarter run of their own as they handled the Karl Anthony Towns-less Wolves behind 36 points from Jamal Murray and a triple-double from Nikola Jokic. At this point, I think it's pretty safe to say that the Jamal Murray we saw in the bubble, he's translating into this next season. He's still giving us some high point performances while just being an offensive threat on the court at all times in general. Also, JaMychal Green continues to be an excellent addition for this team. In this most recent game, he had 14 points, and he was also the only forward/big to even come off the bench and play a good amount of minutes in this one. Other than him, it was Monte Morris, PJ Dozier, and Facundo. I'm forgetting his last name right now, but the new guy that they're all loving in Denver. And JaMychal Green, only big to come off the bench, which is props to him, because small ball 5 minutes with him are definitely going to be killer for the Nuggets later on in the season. And the Timberwolves continue to lose games. They're now 2-4 despite 25 points from Malik Beasley in what was his revenge game. While I was impressed with Malik Beasley last night, I was also found myself impressed by Jarrett Culver. He was someone who had a very, very rocky rookie season, but he seems to have found his place and starting to turn things around. I never started to have doubts about it. Well, I had a few doubts, but I always had full trust that Culver could come through and become a rotational player in the NBA, and it finally seemed like it's starting to happen. He scored 20 points last night, and I'm hoping that this could be a sort of diving board into a breakout year for him. And it was just really strange. In the few minutes that I did catch myself watching this Timberwolves game, I actually found myself to be having some fun just watching D-Lo go out there and make plays. In the few minutes I did watch, he had some amazing assists, which just reminded me of the playmaker that D'Angelo Russell is. So I think my brief, questionable thoughts of wanting to watch a Minnesota Timberwolves game for reminding me that Russell is a legit playmaker in the NBA. In San Antonio, the Utah Jazz blew out the Spurs behind a much-needed 28-point performance from Bojan Bogdanovic. He had been in a huge slump to start the season. In 3 of the past 4 games he's played, he has yet to hit 10 points, and if that doesn't go to show you how much he's been struggling, after last season he averaged 20 a game, so again, very much needed game for Bojan Bogdanovic. Hopefully this helps break him out of this rough slump to start the year. And speaking of players on the Jazz who are in slumps, Donovan Mitchell also had a pretty good game himself. Nothing crazy, but again, it is a step in the right direction from the very inefficient shooting nights he was having just a few games ago. And for the Spurs, Keldon Johnson led the team in scoring yet again, as he ended with a team high of 40 points less than what Steph Curry scored last night. As a team, the Spurs shot 6 of 19 from 3, and you guys know this is never going to cut it in the NBA, deeming it one of those nights for the San Antonio Spurs where they just unfortunately cannot get any offense rolling at all. And moving on to Mavs Bulls, the Bulls picked up yet another win as they are finding themselves in a mini little hot streak right now, as they picked up a win against the Luka Doncic-less Mavs. Yeah. In terms of scoring, the backcourt of Zach LaVine and Kobe White combined for 1 Steph Curry last night. Although, jokes aside, Zach LaVine did have himself a pretty nice night. He had 39 by himself. And overall, the Bulls have now won 3 of their last 4. Now, granted, 2 of those were against a struggling winless Washington Wizards team, and now one of them is against the Mavs, who are without 2 of their star players, and Porzingis, who remains out, and Luka Doncic, who had a rare missed game. So personally, I'm going to want to see a little bit more out of the Chicago team against some better teams before I can settle in on a judgment for them. Meanwhile, the Mavs now find themselves at 2-4, and it's definitely not a good place to be, although in their defense, there are a lot of other Western Conference teams that find themselves struggling right now with some middling records. One very bright spot for the Mavericks in this game last night was the replacement for Luka Doncic in the starting lineup, Jalen Brunson, who has been a fan favorite ever since he's been drafted to the Mavericks, and apparently it's for good reason, as he had a career night last night. He scored 31 points and dished out 7 assists. Very similar to the current situation in Memphis, with John Morant being out, Tyus Jones has stepped in and is getting some much needed development from a starting role for the length of the time where John Morant's out. Exact same thing is happening here. Jalen Brunson is getting some starter experience while Luka Doncic misses a game or two, and he's showing that he can perform in an elevated role. But unfortunately for the Mavs fans, this 2-4 start, who knows how long it's going to be until Luka and Porzingis are both fully healthy and back in the court, and until that happens, I'm just not quite sure how well this Mavs team is going to do. One thing that is for sure is that it's looking like the Mavs are going to have some catching up to do in terms of playoff seeding later in the season. In Phoenix, the Clippers got out to a very big early lead over the Suns, where the Suns then fought their way back, had a close game late in the fourth, but the Clippers prevailed behind the 39-point effort from MVPG. The Clippers are now tied with the Phoenix Suns at 5-2 for best record in the West, and it was in big part thanks to the play of Paul George, as he has just been excellent to start this season. I also continue to enjoy Luke Kennard on this team. I can't help but say that he is such an upgrade over what Landry Shamet was able to do as a player last year. Kennard just adds the ability to get some more ball handling on the court. He is shooting pretty well, and the major thing for him is that he's avoiding his injuries right now. He's been staying healthy. I know the Clippers did a great job of it last year with Kawhi and PG, maybe even too good of a job with it. So again, I think Kennard's in a good spot, and he's going to be able to produce and most importantly, live up to that 4-year, $64 million contract that he was getting a lot of hate for earlier. We also had a very rare good Nick Batum game in this one. He even hit the dagger 3 to fully give the Clippers the wins late in the fourth, and it was an experience having a good Nick Batum game in 2021. For Phoenix, Devin Booker scored 25 while Ayton added 24 of his own. And it was just a case of too little too late in this one for Phoenix. They just came out the gates having a very rough shooting night, although to be fair, as the Suns fans, you have to be happy that the first bad shooting night didn't come until Game 7. The Suns have been playing very well up until this point. But on the flip side, one very good takeaway for the Suns fans is that DeAndre Ayton has been balling in these past couple of games. Over the past 2 games specifically, he's had back-to-back 22-plus point performances, while also shooting above 75% in both of those games as well. This could also potentially be the start of a breakout season for another player who has a lot of hype surrounding him right now. And finally, we're getting to the most exciting game of the night by far. Blazers-Warriors was an absolute classic like we all imagined it to. Steph Dame and the Blazers get the best of them night 1, and then Curry comes back blazing in night 2. He had a career-high 62-point performance, and it was just so much fun to watch. We finally got a classic Steph Curry game, and boy, NBA Twitter, they needed this one. It's been a while since we've had a truly special early regular season basketball game, and again, Curry did a great job delivering. I mean, even after the game, it just came at such a perfect timing because NBA Twitter was getting on Curry for not being able to backpack his team, essentially. And Curry even mentioned that he saw the slander. He broke out the MJ meme of, taking this personally. And he went out, you have to give him respect. He went out and he shut the haters up, dropped 62, new career high, and just had a blast doing it. And don't let it slide past you, but Andrew Wiggins had himself another great game, scoring 21 on 50% shooting, and that now brings his total on the season to 3 good Andrew Wiggins games. And Kelly Oubre also scored 17 points while shooting over 50% from the field, which again, it's showing progress. And Draymond is officially back. I never understood how people thought that he could have simply just forgotten how to play defense. I mean, Draymond is an all-time level defender. There's no way that he just forgot how to play defense. So to see him come back and have a great game, doing stuff that doesn't necessarily get into the stat sheet, and just also aiding Steph Curry on his way to a new career high, it just reminded us of all the things that we love Draymond Green for. Hopefully this can act as a new, fresh starting point for this Warriors team that finds themselves at 3-3. And as for the Blazers, they really didn't even play all that terrible. They put up 122 points. They just happened to run into an inferno Steph Curry, as Dame and CJ, I mean, they themselves combined to score 2 less points than Curry, so they definitely had a night themselves. It was just a matter of, again, Curry was just unstoppable. But one very big story from this Blazers team is that Enes Kanter somehow ended with a 24-12 stat line. He even finished playing more minutes than Nurkic did last night. And I understand that Nurkic has been not great to start the season, and the fact that Kanter against this small Warriors team was able to just get rebounds and score at will on offensive putbacks. But he was also just getting absolutely cooked on the defensive end, and I don't know if that trade-off was what you exactly want in this scenario, with Curry being hot and the Warriors offense being pretty unguardable. So I just don't quite get why you wouldn't just stick with Nurkic, who at least has been a better defender than Kanter. Either way, the Blazers definitely have some issues left to fix, as does every other NBA team in the league. So I mean, overall, this was just a very fun game to watch and end our nights with. And in a special segment of miscellaneous news, I felt like I had to throw this in, as we had a continuation in our Sacramento Kings fathers of Sacramento Kings players being on Twitter story, whatever that whole thing was and is. But yeah, we had De'Aaron Fox's dad reply to the tweet from Marvin Bagley's dad, and he said to trade him, and people weren't quite sure what exactly he meant by it, but of course, in typical NBA Twitter fashion, we didn't really even care about that part. We cared more about the fact that De'Aaron Fox's dad is named Aaron Fox, quite literally meaning that De'Aaron Fox means from Aaron Fox, which is just the whole meme in itself. But yeah, that will do it for this recap of the January 3rd night of basketball in the NBA. As always, drop some comments down below on what you thought about these games. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video or enjoyed this type of content. And as always, most importantly, thank you for watching.